it'll show up after but it started streaming now.
We going, yeah?
Oh yeah.
All right. So, welcome everybody here to another edition of the rOilers podcast. As per usual, we got myself, James, Paul McCartney, Adam, Sweet 44722, and we have Nolan, Professor Scribbles. So, just the three of us here today. Unfortunate, so Arun couldn't join us. We got a pretty long list of topics here. I'm not going to start with the first one that we have listed. I'm going to jump down to the second one real quick. It's an NHL-related topic. With Washington running away with the President's Trophy this year, do you think that they have a legitimate chance to do some serious playoff damage, or do you think that this is the same team that's going to flame out in the first or second round of the playoffs? Adam, why don't you start?
I don't think it's fair to say they're the same team. If we look at the Caps last time they did this well, it would have been, I think, about 2012. They would have had Semyon Varlamov. And as good as Varley was, he isn't as good as Holtby is now. And their defense is deeper. They picked up a bunch of free agents. That's a deep, strong, good team. I think they're actually going to probably get to the conference finals, probably the Cup finals this year. I don't really see any team in the East maybe contending with them except maybe Florida. I don't think Florida is as deep as the Capitals are, so I think Capitals will probably go to the Cup finals this year, simply on depth alone. Nolan?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm biased because I was traded to the Capitals subreddit last year as part of the fandom trade thing that they did, so Caps are kind of my third team behind the Oilers and the Sharks, so I'm biased when I say I think they'll probably make the Cup final. I don't see how last year is at all indicative of them being like Sharks East where they choke a lot. I don't think anyone really pegged them to beat the Rangers, and that was a pretty tough series. They just happened to be the team that lost. I don't see any real team that could compete with them to get all the way to the end. They don't have a question in goal anymore. Ovi's playing well again. Backstrom is quietly being one of the best players in the league anyway, and their defense is, I think, slightly improved from last year. There is no question mark for the team. It's just a matter of how far they want to go. And I think they are probably desperate for a cup now because this is pretty much the end of Ovi's prime scoring years.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it seems to be pretty much now or never for them. Like you said, Ovi's playing well again, but who knows how long it's going to last, right?
Yeah. I think the other side of it is, you got to look at the competition, right? Who realistically from the East can compete with Caps?
Nobody.
maybe Florida, and they have no defense out there. Their good defense is good, but the top 4D after that is, they don't have great six, and they don't have great scoring depth beyond the top two lines.
Yeah, I'm going to look in the Eastern Conference right now, see who else could
I'm already
compete.
there, and the only team that looks like they'd probably challenge them would be the Rangers, because the Rangers are the closest in defensive and goaltending capability, and they won't. That's true. Lundqvist is getting older, and he's been having issues, and the Capitals are 20 points ahead of them, so clearly whatever their team is doing is working a lot better.
Yeah.
And also, they won't meet until at least the second round, and I'm assuming the Caps are probably going to play either the Islanders or the Red Wings, so those seem like pretty easy wins because I don't think either the Red Wings or the Islanders have defensive or goaltending depth or ability that the Rangers or Caps would have.
A pretty damn good season, but I don't see the Isles competing. Now the real question is, can they beat the Ducks or the Hawks? Because those seem like and the Kings, I guess, are the top three teams out in the East right now, and those seem like they're going to run over everybody else.
Convenient that you would ignore the Sharks, who are also one of the hottest teams in the West.
They are
a single point behind Anaheim.
I don't see them competing beyond maybe the second round.
The Sharks?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Brent Burns is incredible, and Joe Thornton and Joe Pavelski and their depth is insane, and Peter DeBoer is working wonders with them because they have an older core right now. But I don't know. I don't see them beating Chicago and LA and Anaheim.
Well, the Sharks are probably going to play the Ducks, and depending on what team gets hotter, the Sharks are scoring a lot more than the Ducks. They have, I think, some of the most goals for in the West. Yeah, they're second in goals for in the entire West, and the Ducks are on pace with the Jets, who are the worst team in the Central. Mm-hmm. So, putting that into perspective, I feel like if Jones is able to find some hidden poise and really stand on his head in the playoffs, they can make it through. But at the same time, Gibson could do the same thing. It just doesn't really look like the Ducks
have allowed
team. Their goals for and against are very close.
Yeah, the Ducks have allowed almost 25 goals fewer than San Jose. So playoff hockey tends to be like war of attrition, defensive battles. So I don't know. I think that could play into the Ducks' favor, to be honest with
And
you.
if you look, mind you, the Sharks have a competent backup in Reimer now. So if they wanted to, they could rest.
Mhm.
They could rest Jones for the rest of the year. But so could the Ducks have Anderson and Gibson.
Anderson and Gibson, yeah.
They're both so good.
It's
Yeah.
gonna be. You know what? No Canadian teams might be in the playoffs, but I'm looking forward to playoff hockey this year. My school ends at about the same time the playoffs start, and it looks like it's gonna be great hockey. So
Yeah, I'm very excited for it this year.
Last time I watched the entirety of a Sharks first round series was when they not reverse swept, but they swept the Canucks as the lower seeded team. So I'll probably be watching them against the Ducks. I feel like they have a pretty good record against Anaheim.
that'll be fun. All right, so moving on.
Onwards.
What are we
Let's-
at? The CHL. Do you want to talk about the CHL fighting?
Sure. Yeah,
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
There was a report that came out last week that Dave Branch, who I believe is the OHL commissioner, had released some information saying that the CHL is looking at eliminating fighting from the game because they've looked at it, and the CHL has almost twice as many fights per game as the NHL, and about twice as many as the AHL, almost 3 times as many as the NHL. So they're looking into getting rid of fighting entirely next season. What do you guys think of that, and what do you think it could translate to the NHL, where they already have lower rates of fighting?
How do you penalize that? If you say that you're not allowed to fight, what's the consequence if you do? Because I don't think that you'll ever eliminate it.
I think they just give them they kick them out of the game. And if
Game
it's probably,
suspension?
It's probably if it's in the last 10 minutes of the third period, they give them a game suspension. Is what I imagine. All details haven't been released, but they are looking at banning it, which would likely mean a 1-game suspension for a fight.
I don't know, man. I'm not a huge fan of fighting in hockey, but I don't think that you can ever fully get rid of it. It's just hockey is such a frustrating sport, and I don't know. Like I'm thinking of myself when I'm on the ice, and it's like I want to kill these guys sometimes, but I don't know. I just don't think that you can ever get rid of fighting. If they're going to give 1-game suspensions, then maybe, but fuck. I don't know. I don't really agree with it, to be totally honest with you.
No?
I'm also not really sure of how you'd ban something in its entirety when it's something that happens naturally a lot of the time, and I don't think I really have that much of a diverse opinion here. I think that fighting isn't necessarily part of the sport per se, and I think the stage stuff is bullshit, but I'm pretty sure a lot of people feel that way. But fighting tangibly, people like to see other people fight, so it's kind of mildly entertaining. And also, there are times when things get very, very tense where a release of energy might be said by the coach, like, hey, Cracknell, go and beat the shit out of X team's fourth liner or something, or, go start pushing Kane around, see what happens, see if they do anything.
Now,
Something like that leading to a fight is what causes fights to happen, and maybe it doesn't belong where in the CHL where there's 15, 16-year-olds, but I don't see how you can implement that in the NHL. There are a lot of legitimate fights that happen and just break out. If you ban it, I don't know why they're trying to push this finesse sport thing onto hockey. It's always been pretty rough and tumble.
Yeah, I don't see how
they
you
just
can ban
contact, right?
I mean, it's I can kind of understand it because if you think about it, as a minor, you're more susceptible to injury, or to chronic issues from a concussion or from injuries, which often do result from fighting. And if there's 3 times as many fights in a game, you want to reduce it. They know there's still going to be fights, so this might be a measure more than anything else to reduce it to close to NHL levels where it's 0.5, 0.3 per game kind of thing. I think right now the NHL is 0.3 per game. AHL, I think it's about 0.9 per game, and I think in the CHL it's 1.8. It's almost 2 fights a game. And if you think about it, as a 15, 16, 17, 18-year-old who's trying to make it to the NHL, and fighting is the way to do that, do you think it's fair to remove your chance, their supposed chance at making their dream come true? Or is it that maybe they need to step in and kind of protect these kids because they don't know how much damage it can do? Like in the NHL, you're over 18, what can come of it. You have fully trained staff at your disposal. You're an adult. You can make adult decisions. Is it different maybe at a lower level than it is at the NHL?
Nolan, why don't you go first with that one? I gotta take a minute.
I'm not entirely sure, but I had something kind of brewing back in my mind where I was thinking, like, it seems like even more and more they're trying to cut out the grinder and fourth line brawler sort of mentality, because by cutting it out of the CHL, you don't get to scout a guy and say, like, oh, in the CHL he was beating the shit out of everybody. This guy's actually a really good fighter and he skates well. You won't find that anymore if it's banned, so the role of the fourth line fighter is becoming even less and less relevant, especially if they ban it in the CHL. Not that, obviously, kids aren't getting their MMA training in the CHL or anything, but it's something you can look at and say, hey, this guy's always been pretty good at fighting. He handles well. He skates well. You don't find that now until he gets into the EHL, AHL, or even, European leagues having occasional fights at that point. I don't care about the fighting role being banned. It's just, I don't really...
At that point, I think it's more moved towards players who are mobile that can fight, like Zach Cassian or Pat Maroon, where they have good enough hands to be useful, they have enough speed to be useful, but they still can grind and bang bodies.
Yeah. You can't play 3 minutes a night and fight.
Yeah.
You can't. There's no room for Luke Gazdix, but there's plenty of room to be had for guys like Pat Maroon, is what I'm thinking. So,
yeah.
But I mean, like, in Game 7 of a Cup final in a CHL league, like in the Dub or something, or even like in the final of the Memorial Cup and you ban fighting, like, it's an extremely tense game. How do these guys vent their energy then?
Yeah.
I mean, fighting doesn't have to be the only way to do it, but, like, if people are getting really aggressive and pissed off, the only way to do it is by body checking harder because you aren't allowed to fight.
And you're more likely to take a risk with a hit than hit cleanly, because it's easier to hurt somebody or do more damage when you hit somebody.
Yeah, I trust the CHL has a much better grasp of what the mathematics and the stats what this would do to the league would, like, what the changes would be. It probably has a much better idea of it than I do, but I just think that it's like an unnecessary change because they're trying really hard to seem like they're up to date and modern with the anti-concussion protocol. I don't know.
Maybe that's some backlash towards that because that's been such a hot topic over the last couple of years, and with the natural decline of fighting in the NHL, do you think that they're being reactive or proactive?
I think they're being a bit of both. If you look at the numbers, when it's almost 3 times as high as the NHL, and you see all this evidence coming out, like 40 or is it 90 of 92 NFL players have CTE. There's been a bunch of hockey players that have come out and said that they're doing that. There's the ongoing have CTE. Sorry, there's the ongoing allegations against the NHL where there's a lawsuit going on. There's constantly more information coming out that, like, yes, okay, these fights are doing long-term damage regardless of whether you think it does or not. I think in that sense it's reactive, but at the same time it's proactive in the way that they want to try to cut it down to the lower levels too. So it's if you do it at the top, it scales down, right?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Not quite as relevant, but one case sticks in my mind. There was like an NFL player that was, I think, a first or second round draft pick. Either way, very highly touted, and he retired after like 1 or 2 pro seasons because he was afraid of getting a concussion.
Trying to remember. Yeah, there's actually about 2 or 3 guys who were still fairly young did that. That guy said he might come back. He just wants to have a few years. But the thing is, in the NFL, you miss 2 or 3 seasons, that could be your career.
That's done,
because no one has an obligation to keep you year after year. You can just get cut and that's it.
Now he was one of the best players in the league, leaving at a young age, so he can probably come back and play. But if you or I were to go in and we're some low-ranked draft pick and you have 3 years to make as much money as possible before you get cut from the team, because that's the average, career of a player. Are you going to suck up and play for $750K a year for 3 years, or are you going to say no? I like my brain the way it is. This is the only thing I've ever been good at, but I like my brain the way it is.
I would probably suck it up and play for 3 years.
It's easy to say when you're not making a 6-figure income, but I'd probably suck it up.
And I think that a big part of it is if you look at where a lot of these guys are coming from, a lot of them are coming from poverty. Not all of them, but there's a lot of times where they're in, these guys are trying to make the teams and they've come from nothing, and this is really the only thing they've ever been good at, and they've ever really pursued. Their education may not have been great, or even if it was, it never led anywhere, but this is what they've got, and this is their chance to make some extra money.
Well, I mean, that's why 99% of players don't retire early because of concussions. That's why the league still exists.
Yeah. Well, and then you look at the issues with poverty after. Actually, there's a huge. I think it's almost 70% of all NFL athletes are in debt. in serious debt within 5 years of finishing their careers.
Weren't they talking about implementing like financial literacy
they have financial aid
courses?
available, but I think they're looking into implementing it. Same thing the NHL. I want to see.
Oh, not aid, not financial aid, like
Not-
financial literacy.
Yeah, well, that's
Like
what I mean.
teaching
Sorry, yeah.
how to.
Financial aid. I meant financial aid as in teaching. I think was Dan Carcillo was trying to establish the same thing, or because he was helping people transition.
Yeah,
out
it
of
was
the NHL.
Carcillo.
Carcillo, yeah.
So.
Anyway, back to NHL league politics. Should the league move back to more obstruction holding hooking calls like they did after the lockout?
All right, so this one was inspired by the whole goals debate, the great goal debate. I know, James, you had said that you actually like more goals, you find it more exciting. I believe me and Nolan and Arun had all said that we prefer, not necessarily prefer closer games, but that you don't need to increase scoring to make hockey good. I look at the playoffs as a perfect example of that. Not all playoff games are high scoring. In fact, defense wins championships, so now more and more it's like you said, a battle of attrition. For me, increasing obstruction and everything won't really do anything for the Oilers without how bad the power play is. But as a whole, I think you could go back to it as a solution without, they're reducing the goalie pads this year, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it's better than making goals bigger. It's better than getting rid of some of the rules. I think they were looking at getting rid of icings on power plays as a shorthanded team. So I think it's a better option than making the goals bigger, getting rid of icing. But I'd just rather they didn't.
I wish that the refs were a lot more transparent and visible out on the ice. The amount of times that a ref has power gamed and taken goals away, or done a fucking stupid call to go back and check if something was offside or if the puck was actually over the net when we have such shit goal technology, is infuriating. I wish there were less calls, and if it's decreasing scoring or increasing scoring that much, then yeah, we can talk about increasing sizes of goaltender pads or decreasing them or something. But I really wish that refs had stopped getting so, easy to say when I'm not a ref or an NHL player, but power hungry almost. They feel like they've been a lot more relevant and making themselves known on the ice than they have recently. I don't know about the politics behind that, but I feel like refs have had a lot more power over games that I've watched than in recent seasons.
Yeah, I've noticed that as well. Obviously, I'm always going to like hockey, and that's going to be pretty hard to change in my mind, but the NHL from about 2005 to about 2009, I remember enjoying it quite a lot more. I don't know. I like goals. I like scoring. More stuff was called. The rats weren't in the game as much as they are now. I liked it better, honestly. So, yeah, I wish that they did go back and call more stuff because the rats have taken over. I forget who did that quote, but probably Brian Burke, maybe?
I think it was Burke quote. It sounds like a Burke quote.
Yeah, it does.
I don't know. To me, it's just you can have a 2-1 game with lots of chances, and if the goaltender's standing on his head, it's amazing.
The thing is, not all 2-1 games are like that.
Yeah,
lots of 2-1 games,
not all 8-7 games are exciting either. At some point, you're just
I disagree.
You stop anything? It's just to me, it's just holy shit. Can you not let the puck in go in once?
I disagree. I think an 8-7 game would always be entertaining, whereas a 2-1 game. How many times have we watched the Oilers lose 2-1 or 3-2, and it's 3-2 would be okay,
again,
but
that's the Oilers that are a bad team, and somehow they're surviving to get to 2-1. It's not even that necessarily they're trading chances. It's that they've somehow made Cam Talbot's made 42 saves, and they're only down 2-1. So I think it's a little different if you're a good team and losing 2-1 than if you're a bad team losing 2-1.
I don't agree.
I'll kind of take the median role here and transition us into the next topic. I think goals being called off a lot and the offside bullshit that happened to us where someone, I think it was Hull, happened to be offside, but it had nothing at all to do with the goal. It was literally just an advantageous call to stop a goal from happening. Shit like that is unbelievable. The fact that we're calling off goals for things that either don't matter or are straight up wrong calls because they're looking at it on a fucking little phone or iPad or whatever pisses me off to no end. I think goal scoring should increase if that was less of a thing, and I want that. But I don't think that increasing the size of goaltender pads will change much because when they last reduced the size, teams started playing more defensively and systems were changed, and goal scoring has pretty much stayed the same, if not gone down a little, I think. Decreasing the size of goaltender padding again will just mean that teams that have an extremely defensive, really boring game will keep winning games because they're not letting the high danger scoring chances onto their goalie when he has less room to cover in the net. Alternatively, it could just mean that teams can't deal with how small the pads get, and we do get more scoring. But one of the more boring FC Edmonton games that I went to was one where we won 6-2 because after 4 goals, they stopped mattering. Hockey games where it becomes an 8-2 blowout are nice when it's a rarity, but when your team's doing well, seeing it all the time is not really that interesting.
Yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
There's something like I don't want to say. You obviously know, James. You watch Liverpool. That when they score, it's pretty rare. It's exciting. Versus that was supposed to be an insult, but it didn't work out that way. But it's an.
Did you watch their?
Yeah,
go ahead.
It's also different. You don't say anything. It's also a different sport, but. The way I see it, do you guys think that maybe having something with the offside rule where if the player isn't involved in the play, then it can still be a goal? For they have in I think FIFA made it their rule for a while that if you weren't in the play, I think they changed it back. But if you weren't in the play and you were offside and you didn't interfere with the play at all, it was still a good goal.
Yeah.
I think it's too much.
The problem with that is though that by a player being offside but not actually being relevant to the play is kind of finicky, because by being offside in soccer especially, the defense is basically sitting there watching the last man, and it's impacting the shape of the back line, whereas in hockey it's not fluid based around where the player is relative to the team, it's just based around where the player is, so it kind of impacts it slightly. I didn't really see the entire play, but it didn't look like Hull was that far offside, and from what I understand, had nothing at all to do with the play. But it does bring a defender to a different side of the ice and makes them think differently about the play because the player is offside in the zone. So I get it, but it's stupid, but I get it.
Yeah. James?
It's stupid, but I get it. Yeah, same thing. Like, it's really dumb. It's infuriating. But, I mean, offside is offside. I don't think that you should start bending rules because he didn't have anything to do with the play. If he's offside, then ultimately that is his fault. So
now,
I think going back and reviewing the fucking play for it is stupid. Calling the offside like a couple seconds after he went offside and realizing, wait a minute, this player is impacting the play and was offside. I missed it. Fine, but going back and be like, oh yeah, it's a goal. Okay, it's done. Oh wait, he was offside. Never mind, it's no goal. That's stupid. So I don't get that.
Do you think there has to be a sort of
scoring on your own net at the other end of the rink?
That's why I'm saying like 30 or 40 seconds is the equivalent of most of a shift. So you have one shift, and otherwise after that, because it was almost a minute and a half later, I think, is when they called it back.
Mm-hmm.
So at some point, I think you have to kind of say, okay, that's part of the play now. You can't call it back. So I think 30 seconds is like the allowable limit. So you're offside, you score a goal, they go back, review it, put 30 seconds on the clock, that's max. Otherwise, you're spending 2 minutes trying to figure out where the play was in the clock, whether or not it was a goal, and then going back. And of course, there was a thing with Letang the other day where he scored, and they called it a no goal. So they called the goal, reviewed it, called it no goal, reviewed it again, called it a goal, reviewed it again, called it no goal, and then called it a goal eventually again. 4 times.
I missed that. Holy crap!
It's on the front page of Our Hockey right now, but it's just like,
wow.
Because I guess they had reviewed it for a kicking goal, and then he went back and reviewed it again. It's like, oh no, it's no goal, and then they challenged it, and they reviewed it no goal, and they challenged it again and they reviewed it again. It was just
that the one where it went off of his glove or something?
No, it went off his leg. They thought it went off his leg because he stuck his leg up to block the puck out, and went off the shaft of his stick in it. And it was pretty obvious it went off the shaft of his stick, but it was just took them 4 times to do it. Now,
you want to talk about making hockey a little bit more exciting? How about the refs stop fucking taking 5-minute breaks to review a single play?
Now there's the other options, like in what they have with the wristwatches now, where in FIFA, where if the ball goes over the line and they don't blow it dead, they get a vibration on the wristwatch. They immediately blow it down. For anybody that doesn't know, so within a half second whether it was a goal or not, and there's sensors on the line. Now it's harder to do in hockey, but what could happen is like this happened actually last week in the NHL, where if Toronto's watching a game and they see the puck go in, they called down the booth. I can't remember what game it was. They called down the booth, they blew the play down and called it a goal and went back, and it was like a minute earlier. So if you have a league official up top that's watching the play and sees the puck goes in or sees something reviewable, and they send a signal to like a vibrating watch or whatever, is that a better option than waiting 5 minutes for review? Like, because then the refs aren't looking at that stupid little iPad. Like, that's the biggest issue to me.
That probably is a better way. Yeah, probably.
Have like a 5th official.
Yeah.
Same thing.
But that's another guy getting paid across every single game of the league, and the NHL likes to make money, not spend it. So
The way I see it is,
except in Arizona.
if you screw with the integrity of the game, like right now, having the refs decide coaches' challenges on iPad in front of 20,000 people, like Hall is saying, is ridiculous.
Yeah.
All right, so
I appreciate coaches' challenges, but they stop the game too much.
Well, and the worst part is the GMs were saying they like the coaches' challenge. They like the goaltender interference for coaches' challenge.
Probably not.
Why wouldn't they? 29 of the GMs get them their way, and ours doesn't. No, but honestly, now on to Oilers talk.
Yeah, Oilers stuff. Brossoit. All right. So, after the Nielsen trade, he has been slotted in behind Talbot pretty solidly as the backup here for the stretch run of the season. Do you guys think that he'll be the backup for next year? Do you think he's ready? Do you want him to have another season? Is he going to make it at all? What are your opinions?
Bring in a veteran in the AHL. Have Brossoit start as the backup in the NHL if he's still too shaky, or Team X says this guy needs more games, or he's not getting enough time because Talbot's taking a run with it. Swap places with the veteran in the AHL. It's a 2.5-hour flight.
The way I see it is that he's still only played 4 NHL games, which is the other ridiculous thing is we're kind of judging him on 4 games, and he's played well in 2 of them and played poorly in 2 of them. It's just 2 of them have come since the trade. Now, he's only 22. I think he actually turns 23 in 5 days. He's 5 days younger than me, but it's that he's 22. And it's incredibly young for a goaltender to be ready, even NHL backup at that point. So there's probably 8 or 9 solid, considerable backups that are older that you could sign on for cheap and be backups this year, without really pushing him out of the way. And the way I see it is bringing a veteran like you did with Nielsen, make him battle out for a backup spot, and if Brossoit wins out, put him in, and then you can always swap him around. Otherwise, have the veteran in, put LB as a starter in Bakersfield, give him time in the AHL, and if he earns it again, then bring him up. But you don't need to push him, is what I'm saying.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can agree with that. I think he's got at least, one more year of time before I think people would start getting on him a little bit. So,
absolutely, yeah.
I don't know. I think it's also fair to consider that Eetu Lorikainen is one of our prospects. He's a little bit older than Brossoit, and he also needs to start getting some serious starts as well. I don't see much of a shame in having Brossoit come in and be told he's the backup, because if things go really, really bad or he breaks his leg or something, then you can just sign a guy who's like an AHL backup for any team and bring him in. There are plenty of. It's been said by other goalies before, there are too many good goalies in this league and not enough teams for them all. So you can probably find a half-decent to just bad backup and have him go to the AHL if you need to bring up Lorikainen, or even back up Talbot to play the odd game. Well, I think there's no shame in letting Brossoit get 20, 25, maybe even 30 games for the Oilers next year.
Well, that's why I'm thinking that this year might be a good year to look at a veteran UFA that might be... might be actually useful for either to push LB or to maybe give a contract, like a trial contract to.
Yeah.
Hold on.
It is important to have competition for spaces, but I don't really know how to fit those 4 goalies into a team rotation with Lorikainen, Brossoit, a veteran, and Talbot.
That's hard.
For UFAs, there's Ward, Hiller, Ramo, Backstrom, Reimer, Scrivens, Kudobin, Stalock, Johnson, Enroth, Kemper, Anderson, Montoya. That's Freddie Anderson. Montoya, Nielsen, Peters, Hoffman, Lindback, Picard, Rumpel. All these guys are all UFAs this year.
They're not going to take 1-year contracts, most of them.
But I'm thinking you bring in somebody like Kai Ramo, who's more than likely not going to get a starting role anywhere in the league at this point. You give him
He's not going to get one here either. I don't know why he'd choose us.
Well, where else is he going to go?
Literally any team that needs a backup, there must be some of them, because a lot of them are single release to UFA.
Ramos, I don't know.
So but there are options available, is what I'm saying. So you could give somebody a trial contract and give them go, or there's there's options. I don't think you have to push LB to be the backup. You should expect him to push, and maybe expect him to win out as a backup. But I don't think you should expect him to be sitting as a backup all season. Just
Honestly, I feel like the only types of players that shouldn't be getting competition for their spaces are a guy who's solidified himself as your starting goaltender, and people whose names are Ovechkin, Crosby, Kane, Taves, or McDavid.
yeah.
And everyone else should be getting some kind of competition, or else they'll get complacent, like the Oilers have been for the last half a decade.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think it's debatable at all.
The only problem is, again, how do you challenge a backup position on a team that needs to give two young guys starting time? Best quality of competition as possible.
The other side of it is then
Like
next year, do you get Bressard to observe, or do you give him like 20 starts, or do you give him only double starts? Like,
I don't know, but I think I remember. I don't remember if it was Tom McClellan or like some insider like Stauffer or something that said like Bressoir's coming along well, but the reason he hasn't been doing well or he needs more practice is because he hasn't had time dealing with NHL level competition and shots and deking and things like that. So something like just getting time playing against these guys will help him. And it's not like he's not getting practice, every day, every other day against his own team in the NHL instead of the A. So he is getting some time. It's just his match day experience is going to be limited to 30 games a year at most.
that's the thing, is that the two biggest differences between the AHL and NHL, people say, are the speed of the game and the speed of the shots. Everybody shoots harder and more accurate. Everybody. It doesn't matter. George Perros shoots harder than some AHL level guy. Like, it's just the way it is. It's about a half hour right now, give or take.
Speaking of
McDavid, Calder. Yes, no, maybe so. Does Panarin ever locked up?
Maybe so. It depends. It depends on if he can have a really good end to the season. It's pretty clearly a two-horse race, I think, between McDavid and Panarin. Who else would it be?
No. Ghost Bear is a power play. Not even a specialist. He's benefiting a lot from. He's a system baby, and he is getting a lot of his points on the power play, and they all came. Or most of them came from one really good stretch.
Right, but he's
any half decent defenseman can go
what
on
I'm saying is
stretch.
he's in consideration. Maybe not for you guys, but he's in the mind of the league right now.
Sure, but there's realistically only two. Larkin? There's only two options really. Dylan Larkin, maybe. He's had a pretty solid year.
It brings a tear to my eye to know that of all the people in consideration for Calder, Jack Eichel isn't even close to being one of them.
And he really should be. He's been amazing in the second half of the season. He really has, yeah.
50 points in 72. What the fuck?
Yeah.
And that's not... Holy shit, a year.
He's been good.
What a year.
Like, he's second in scoring. He's really,
Could you
really
imagine
good.
Jack Eichel in the Yakupov-Huberdeau draft year?
Yeah.
Holy shit. Like, no contest. The guy's won it by January.
Yeah.
No, this guy's like... Eichel's been good. And the fact that he's not getting consideration is almost a little maddening. But... It's really, as like James, you were saying, it's a two-horse race between Panarin and McDavid. Now, I know we've talked about this
I'm
in the
biased and
past.
would say that a 24-year-old playing next to one of the top 5 players in the world shouldn't be that close to consideration, whereas McDavid is carrying guys. Yeah, Anisimov is no slouch, and he's a pretty good first liner, but I mean, fucking Patrick Kane, man. Like, the guy's been playing with his best season of his entire
career.
Yeah.
And he just happens to be benefiting from it. How many assists does Panarin have? Yeah, he's got 37 assists. He's benefiting from it. 25 goals. No slouch, but I mean, you've got fucking Kane and Anisimov passing to you, not to mention that defense.
Mm-hmm. And McDavid's been stuck with an interesting rotating cast.
Not exactly
Such studs as, if I remember correctly, I think at some point he's had Pouliot, Cassian, a little bit of Pakarinen.
He started with Yakupov.
Korpikoski.
Yeah.
But in fairness,
elite.
Hey, he's on Team Finland, man. He's elite.
He's elite.
Guys, don't start me down this road again. I don't want to go on a 20-minute rant about Korpikoski.
That really startled me when he made Team Finland.
I fucking hate that guy. I can't stand him on the team. I really can't. Anyway, I think McDavid's also played with Eberle most of the season. He's played with Hall as of late. Like, he's played with good players too, but it's not comparable. I think Panarin, I don't know if he should win, but he probably will win. I think if McDavid hits 50 points, though, it's a lot closer than we think it will be.
Yeah.
If McDavid hits 50, I think he might win.
I don't know. I kind of agree with you. Like I think McDavid should win, honestly, but I don't think that he will, just because he's missed so much time.
Do you guys think that they should change the rules for the Calder Trophy? Like, you can still be a rookie at 24, but to be eligible for the Calder Trophy, do you think you have to be maybe younger, maybe 22 and younger?
I think it should be pretty fair to say that 5 years in any professional league should exempt you from being considered an amateur in any professional league. The guy's been playing since 2008 in the KHL.
Now, see, the thing that
Not the MHL, not a youth development league, in the fucking pros.
Yeah.
That's not amateur anymore.
See,
I don't care about his age. He's been playing pro since he was like fucking 17. That doesn't count anymore.
The thing that throws me is that he's the same age as Hall. Now, if Hall was putting up those kind of points, would he be considered like? It's like you're like, okay, yeah, he's good, but that's expected of him. Now, is Panarin a rookie and it's amazing? Yeah, it's amazing. He had to adjust to a language barrier. It's a new league. He's smaller ice surface, but he's also playing on one of the best teams in the league with two of the best players on that team. And he's 23. He has pro experience. He's not the same thing adjusting to a new league, breaking your fucking collarbone, coming back, and then being third in the league in points per game.
Yeah, this is Panarin's 8th year in pro. Has Hall even played 8 years of pro?
6. I think he's
6.
20,
Yeah, exactly.
24.
Panarin is one of the more veteran players in his age group. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think many people have been playing pro. Oh, my webcam froze. Oh, it's good.
You're good.
I don't think anyone his age has been playing pro as long as him, so that doesn't really seem fair to.
Yeah,
let him
it doesn't
count
seem
as
fair.
amateur.
I mean, he's been playing against men since, like you said, 2008. He's been paid money to play since 2008. Like, he's not a rookie. He's a 24-year-old man.
I think you have to reduce the age to 21 or 22.
I don't think the age should matter. I didn't care when it was like 30, but I mean, even at that point, you've probably played a couple of years of pro. I think 5 years of pro is fair because that way, like people who take a while developing or come from the KHL or something who've played like 4 years or something, and they came over to the AHL team and played for a season. There's your 5th year. Your 6th year is your last one because you've played 5 before now, and that's your eligible year, and you're like 22, 23. You're still a rookie in the NHL. You haven't played a lot of pro, but this guy's been playing for fucking 8 years.
Yeah.
I think is it maybe as a game cap, like you haven't played more than 200 pro games at a low level kind of thing.
Well, I mean, like, he's barely played 200 pro games, I think, for the KHL because of how short their season is. I think a season-by-season thing would be relevant.
All right.
Maybe like 100... Well, shit, the AHL's too big then. Like 150 pro games, maybe? Something. It feels a little arbitrary to not use like a perfect hundreds number, but 200 is like 5 or 6 full seasons in the KHL.
Yeah.
Or, 2.5 in the A. And guys like Davidson would not qualify for Rookie of the Year because they've been playing in the AHL for 3 or 4 years at that point.
Yeah, I think it needs to change, but I think if McDavid hits 50, he wins. If he doesn't hit 50, Panarin wins. That's my final say on that one.
That's your magical number, hey?
Magic number 50.
Oh,
It'll be 50.
Edmonton. Well, man, we only got 8 games left. I don't think he's going to do it.
What
He
is
might,
right now?
but
30,
39.
39?
8-point night's coming.
11 points in 8 games. It's feasible, but yeah, he'll probably hit. I'm gonna guess he probably finishes with 47.
Yeah,
Say
probably
48 and be a contrarian.
8 points in 7 games.
8 points.
Or, sorry,
Jeez.
if he's at 8 points in 8 games.
I'll say 47. Yeah.
I mean, it's gonna be 47 to 48 if he keeps on the 1.13 he's at right now.
Something like that.
Something like that. Yeah.
All right, so Nurse.
Nurse
No,
suspension.
Punch the living shit out of Polak.
Yeah.
Do you guys agree with the length of the suspension, or the idea behind the suspension, or the fact that he got suspended at all?
Didn't Polak start it? Like, he punched first, didn't he?
No. What happened is on the plays, there was the Hendricks play where Hendricks caught an edge, and it very much looked like Polak had shoved Hendricks from behind. There was no replay in the building, for anyone wondering. So
Also, he was watching it at ice level, so it's very hard to see.
Yeah. So it happened quick. Nurse thought he went after Hendricks. Now, when Pollock came out of the box, he was going to his bench, and it did look like he was going to change. He didn't really swing so much as Nurse threw down his gloves, and it looked like Pollock tried to defend himself by swinging. So at that point, I don't think Pollock threw the first punch in the sense that I don't want to get my face smashed in. I better actually do something about this. And he didn't really. He basically did the face punched in anyway. Now, Nurse was cited as the reason. The big controversy about it is it was within the last 5 minutes of the game. So at that point, you're normally supposed to get the 1 game instigator suspension. That's the loop rule. That's NHL rule policy. And instead, the league cited the fact that he got the aggressor penalty along with instigator, which meant 3 games.
I was actually okay with the length of the suspension. I thought that, at the end of the game, I thought that Nurse went pretty overboard with what he did, to be honest with you. I don't dislike physical play, but I thought it was pretty unnecessary. I was okay with it, to be honest with you. Like, if he's going to act like an idiot, he should be suspended like one. We need him to be Chris Pronger, not Mike Commodore, don't be an idiot.
I will say, I think that considering the NHL has been going back and forth and humming and hawing about all their decision makings, it's awfully convenient that they decided not to change Nurse's suspension, especially considering Max Domi did something worse earlier than him, and Max Domi, pretty much just like horse collared and then haymakered a guy in the middle of the ice for a perceived slight. I think it's awfully convenient that Max Domi has a father who used to play in the NHL and has ties to a lot of former executives and whatnot, and happens to be a white player, whereas Nurse is not white. I think 3 games is fine. I think Domi should have gotten more in retrospect, especially since the NHL has already shown that they don't care about what they say being final because they change it all the fucking time.
So I'm not going to bother bringing the race card into it because I honestly don't think that has anything to do with it. But that said,
I'm just saying it's convenient.
To both,
there's nothing else to it.
To both parties, there's a bit of evidence because if you think about it, Domi tackled the issue I have with it is Domi did a very similar thing 2 days earlier and got a 1-game suspension, but he got the instigator penalty, and that's where the big issue runs into, is that he got the automatic 1 game. So the NHL reviewed it, said no, the 1 game's enough, that's fine. Nurse didn't get the instigator, so we got 3 games. So they basically went, okay, well, you would have got 2 games plus the extra game for the instigator, so we're going to view this anyway. Now, part of what the NHL takes into consideration is injury. And whether or not you agree with it, that's how they do it. And Brian Burke's son, who was involved with You Can Play, he's been on Reddit multiple times to clarify the process and say that, yes, they do take into consideration injury. Whoever Domi attacked, which I can't remember, they weren't injured. Polak's nose was broken. So that's part of the process. So that might have been a game. And then you get the instigator penalty, that might have been a game. And maybe they thought Nurse took it too far, so that's an extra game. Now that said, it's also his first offense, and he didn't know that Polak didn't actually hurt Hendricks. So in that sense, he's defending a player. Now whether or not he should have been suspended. 1, maybe 2 games would have been enough. I thought 3 is excessive. I did.
Has Domi not been suspended before, or has he been warned? Because I remember him.
Suspension too.
First one, yeah.
I think he's been fined.
Maybe people talking about like Domi doing a dirty hit earlier this year, then, or something. Must have been.
He was reviewed, but he wasn't suspended. I believe he may have been fined, but he wasn't suspended.
Yeah,
fined at $2,500 or whatever it is.
It was some minimal amount, but so in that sense, I do think Nurse got the short end of the stick, but at the same time, you can kind of see where the league's coming from with the injury, the instigator penalty, and the aggressor bit. So, that said, I don't discourage him from playing that way. Beating somebody's face in for no apparent reason is a little different than playing aggressively. But I thought McLellan
it was for an apparent reason, but it was a misunderstanding.
Yeah. I think McLellan put it the right way. Really, like they need him to play with the edge, but they don't need him to beat some guy's face in all the time.
Yeah. And in conclusion, you got to get used to the Oilers getting fucked over because it's been like this for forever. If that's all it boils down to,
ultimately the ref should have made the call all the time. He should have been out for a game, and that should have been the end of it. Maybe an extra game max, but he should not have not gotten a game. They gotten 3. Now Nuge returns. Do you think the team's really been missing him? Is it a very clear cut different team before and after when he's returned? Is it that he's now raised his stock for a trade, or has he made it to the point where we can't trade him because we need him so badly?
do the Sharks method. Just have centerman playing every single role. I think the only player on the entire team that is worth more than him that isn't a center are people named Klefbom, Talbot, and Hall. Just put him on the right wing and trade Eberle. Put him on the left wing and trade Pouliot. You know, there are plenty of options. I don't see why you'd get rid of Nuge. He's on a great contract still. I mean, that inherently makes him worthwhile, and we can't pay all of these guys for forever, but we can pay for them for quite a while. And if we want to be a playoff-bound team next year, which, I mean, looks like it could be possible with Sekera, Davidson, Klefbom, potentially Nurse and or Reinhardt stepping up. Like it's a very possible thing that we could actually be a playoff team. We've got a lot of pieces in place. Nuge could be a big part of that. Eberle doesn't have to be, because developing wingers isn't very hard. Signing decent wingers in the offseason isn't super hard. Getting a replacement for Eberle will be fairly difficult for one-to-one skill, but a centerman can play every role, except defense and goalie. But you know what I mean. A centerman can do anything, whereas Eberle is pretty much just going to be a right winger.
Yeah, he plays better defense than the defense.
James, agree?
Yeah, I don't know. Earlier this season, I was kind of thinking that, you know, with the emergence of Draisaitl, obviously McDavid exploding onto the scene, I'm thinking, okay, well, you know, maybe we can get rid of him. But Draisaitl really has cooled off quite a lot. And without Nuge there, like, I don't know. Nuge is the most versatile center for sure. Like, I feel like we can stick him out on the power play, penalty kill, 5 versus 5. We're always going to get something solid from him. So I think that he's pretty much the only one that we can do that with right now. Maybe Draisaitl and McDavid will get there in the future, but they're not there yet. And the contract is still decent. But I've said this a couple times already. Something's going to have to give with these $6 million guys. Like, one of them is going, and Eberle just looks like the natural choice, really. And it's nothing against Eberle. He's just the least valuable.
To me, it makes almost too much sense to trade Eberle. And now, if we didn't have Shirelli and Nicholson running the group, I'd say, well, Nuge is gone for sure because it makes too much sense to trade Eberle. In the sense that Eberle's value contract, he produces consistently at 60 points. He's easily the most consistent player on the team outside of McDavid. He's easily the most consistent player. He can slot in next to a scoring or non-scoring centerman and still produce. He can play big minutes as long as you don't rely on him defensively, and you can stick him out on the power play and he'll succeed. And for teams like two teams in particular, the Blues and the Islanders, they're gonna need a winger. Okposo is likely leaving Isles, and can you imagine Eberle next to Tarasenko? It's just like, it's ridiculous. Yeah. Or him next to Tavares. So, and they both have defensemen they want to give up. The Isles can give up Hamonic, not want to give up, they can, and the Blues can give up Shattenkirk. So to me, it just makes too much sense for them to go there. Now the Blues don't need centermen as badly as the Isles do, and the Isles don't necessarily need centermen as much as we do. The other big one for me is it's been noticeable how much better our power play has been since Nuge has been back. Now it could be that we're just finally actually hitting a groove and they can actually pass and stuff, but I feel like Nugent Hopkins is good enough with the puck and good enough at distributing that when he's out there on the power play, the puck gets moved around better. And even when we haven't been scoring, we've been producing chances.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like, our power play has just infuriated me all year. I haven't really paid much attention to it since Nuge came back because I'm just assuming that it's still shit.
It's been
so
better. The other side of it is that, like you said, Nuge is the most versatile player. He's playing the hardest minutes. He's playing among the league leading minutes, like, you know, in ATOI. So that takes pressure off Hall and Draisaitl, and Draisaitl has looked better as of late, and it's because Nugent Hopkins is playing the harder minutes. So
no, absolutely.
I think one of the $6 million men, mainly Eberle, is gone this summer, and I think it's a loss for production because he's been consistent his entire career, but I think it's the right move for the Oilers to make. I think Nugent Hopkins is too valuable right now. And
a big problem is that we're going to lose our big commercial guy, and they'll have to find a replacement for him.
McDavid.
I'm gonna miss those.
Someone else for ATB Financial.
You know it.
Well, McDavid got the Penguin commercials with CIBC.
McDavid to the Penguins confirmed. But yeah, like Nuge offers too much to the team. He's severely underrated. Everyone who plays for the Oilers is because our stat lines are always shit, so everyone looks bad. I don't see any reason to get rid of him yet.
Now I'm gonna kind
I've
of
already
spring this
said
on you too, because I didn't write it down in the topics. But
Oh,
two
you mad,
players who I think could, one player for sure. Do you think we were watching the last 8 games of Neil Yakupov's Oilers career?
Yep.
Yeah.
He's been playing like ass.
Yeah.
I don't see how he isn't sent off somewhere.
Now, do you think that they retain him because his value is so low that it's actually worth more to keep him on the contract he has than try to sell him at 2.5?
I think it would be a disservice to the player to keep him on a team who has not done him much in terms of favors for the last 4 or 5 years of his career. I think at this point, even if he's too nice of a guy to ask for a trade, Yakupov deserves a team that can try and fix him. In a similar way to Schultz, except, absolutely no love lost for him. I still like Yakupov as a player. I have his jersey, but, he's what, like 22, 23 now, and he's not getting anywhere. He needs to get somewhere. He needs to get traction somewhere in his career, or he's going to be just absolutely a bust and good for nothing, and he'll have to retire or go to some minor league, and that'll be a damn shame.
Yeah, I'd say he's going to. I mean, obviously he's got another year after this with 2.5 mil is the cap hit, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's not a total rental, but
Well, he'll be an RFA.
So that's true. He'd be an RFA, so I mean, they can still control him somewhat. But even people like Low Tide are pretty much accepting it now. And Low Tide is super soft on players. Like I always say he doesn't criticize him enough, or he's not hard enough on the team. But even he now is like, okay, it's a damn shame that Nail Yakupov never worked out, because that's really hurt the team going forward here. And it's weird to hear him say that, because he is notoriously soft and undemanding on the players. So when low tide starts getting down, and you know you're fucked, basically.
I think for me it's unfortunate, because he loves Edmonton in the sense that it reminds him of home, and he's moved to family.
Yeah,
here,
I know.
His sister grew up here, and now it's like, and that's part of the business, unfortunately. And I hope he has success somewhere else, but I think he's done here. And I want a Yakupov jersey.
Yeah,
but
that's
I think
another
I'm
big
going to
thing.
resign myself to
He lives with his family, and they all already are comfortable living here, man.
Yeah, it
sucks.
But it's the same thing with Pouliot, where he's like, or not Pouliot, Purcell, where he's like, I really don't want to go, and we had to trade him. Now he might be back.
He better be coming right the fuck back.
Nice. Purcell would be nice to have back, but I don't know. It's just one of those guys. And then the other one is, do you think we give up somebody, like say we have to trade for Shattenkirk or Hamonic, and they want a young defenseman back? Do you trade Musil or Osterley if need be?
Absolutely, without a second thought. Yeah.
What about
trade Musil?
Like
Yeah,
or
sure.
Davidson?
Probably, yeah.
You'd throw Davidson out there?
I would throw Davidson out there, like assuming Shattenkirk is signed. I mean,
yeah.
Ultimately,
Shattenkirk actually has by far the lowest plus minus on his entire team. He is like absolute shit at plus minus. I'll take a look at the Blues stats, but last I checked, Blues St. Louis stats. He is like minus 20 or something on a team where the next lowest is minus 2.
Yeah.
That might be hyperbole. I have to check, but he's not doing well.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I don't think
he is minus 17. The next lowest is Petteri Lindbom, who's played 7 games at minus 4.
How do you go minus 4 in 7 games? That's almost impressive.
Ask Yakupov, man. I'm sure he could do it.
Shattenkirk has 40 points in 63 games, which is a very respectable point line, but how the fuck are you scoring 40 points in 63 games and still going minus 17?
I don't know. You'd have to pair him with a shutdown guy, for sure. I mean, you'd have to pair him with Fane, maybe? I don't know.
The way I see it is that trade Reinhardt, Osterley, Musil if need be, but the cupboard's bare at this point, and you need your prospects. I think you keep Davidson because he's on a value contract right now, and he's been so good for the last year and a half now that he's almost been that guy that you can rely on to be that bottom pairing. And if you trade him and someone else doesn't work out, say Osterley or Reinhardt don't work out, I don't know. It's kind of
I'm
like a
not
Marty.
saying that they're not going to work out, but I don't think that Osterley is like a franchise cornerstone. I mean, just
No.
because that he's an NHL player doesn't mean that.
That was Davidson.
We're saying the same thing at this
Ah.
point last year with Davidson. To
That's
be fair,
the issue for me is that I'm looking at this as another Marinson.
I'll roll the dice with that every day of the week. I mean, sometimes you're going to lose with that, but more often than not, I think you'll win.
yeah.
I
And
don't.
also, I remember like someone was mentioning that like my webcam keeps fucking flashing for some reason whenever it freezes. That's really weird. Anyway, like someone mentioned Marincin was playing like 25 minutes a game with the Leafs.
It's only been the last
in
couple
some
games, but
recently.
he's been good.
That's
for the
because
last-
with a bunch of fucking backup AHLers playing for your team, Marincin would be the best player.
Exactly. Like, eventually.
It's not good that he's playing 25 minutes a game, and I haven't heard anything about him, so I don't think he's doing that well.
Being out east, I don't.
And you know the Leafs like to talk about anyone who's doing good to no end. So
He's +4 on the Leafs.
He's been really good in the last 2 months. I've been trying to say for the last couple of minutes here. He's been really, really good. He's like Babcock's like, I like his game. I like how he's playing. He needs to put on a bit of muscle. He needs to play a bit more body, which is what we've been saying for the last 5 years. But
Yeah.
he's been their go-to guy right now in defense, along with Morgan Riley. He's been good. Jake Gardner, Morgan Riley, and Martin Burnson have been fantastic for Leafs, particularly Burnson. So, to me, it's almost one of those things where if you trade Davidson for an older defenseman, you're getting the defenseman that you need, but then you have Sakura, Blank, Oscar Klefbom, and
Older defenseman. Shattenkirk is like, how old is he? He's not that old.
26,
25,
Okay, well, how old is Davidson?
24.
24.
Come
That
on.
Shattenkirk thing
What
was
I'm
just
saying is
spitballing.
you
He's
trade-
actually 27.
You
He's
trade
27.
Davidson, then you have, again, you're back to 3 good defensemen, and 3. Well, what the hell do we do now? I mean, we don't know if Reinhart can step in and play for long term. He's played well for this call up, but we don't know. Musil, we have no idea if he can play NHL because they haven't called him up yet. Osterley's had a good stretch, but he's only played, I want to say, 20 NHL games. So you trade Davidson. I think you trade anybody but Davidson at this point, like of the lower level.
But
defensemen.
if you're getting Davidson and you're getting Shattenkirk back,
If you're giving up Davidson and getting Shattenkirk, then you're still back to 3 defensemen that you know can play, and 3 defensemen you have no idea how they'll do.
okay, but you're rolling the dice, assuming that Shattenkirk is going to be better than Davidson, and ultimately that's rolling the dice.
That's
Yes,
fine, but then you're also losing one of your defensemen that you know you can rely on, so you're back to having 3 defensemen. You don't
but
know
you're
if
assuming that you can't rely on Shattenkirk.
No,
You're assuming that you can rely on
no,
Shattenkirk to play in this system as well as he plays in Blues, but we already
Yeah.
know Davidson plays well in this one.
That's the point. Is that
Okay, but I think that the odds of Shattenkirk being better than Davidson
that's
better
that's
than
not the issue
Davidson
for
from
me. The
Davidson.
issue for me is then you have Sekar, Klefbom, and say Shattenkirk. Well, Shattenkirk or Hamonic, one of the two, right? Then you have
Okay.
blank, blank, and blank, Fane and whoever else as your bottom 3.
No, Fane, Gryba, X. So there's only one unknown.
Griba's UFA, isn't he?
Yeah,
I would assume that we made that trade with the intent of keeping him,
Now
but
there's
let's
also
call
Party.
it X then.
Party's been good. And then, well, that's the next topic too, is who we're going to keep.
Party's been all right.
But
yeah.
Party's been all right. But at the same time, the Jets put him on waivers for a reason too.
Exactly. I mean,
Gryba's huge. He can skate. He can play well enough for.
ultimately,
That's
you
actually
have to
why
make
she-
like you can't keep everybody.
No,
like
but
everybody.
I think I'd give up Osterley and Reinhardt before I give up Davidson.
Well, of course you would.
Well,
yeah.
that's what I'm saying is that but if they ask for Davidson, I think you push picks and give up one of the other guys rather than give up Davidson.
You got to give to get. This is not
Right. But
NHL
I would
BGM
say-
mode.
I think you can give pieces other than Davidson to secure your
Sure,
core.
yeah, you can try it, but I mean, like, I hear trade proposals like that in r/hockey all the time, and I'm
Yeah.
like,
It's
stop.
I
Yeah,
will
you
say
would,
that
but-
from what we've seen on defense, that Chiarelli is a gambling man. He traded for Reinhardt. He traded for Marincin. He traded for Gryba. He signed like 3 or 4 guys for defense and forward that were complete projects or guesses. He likes to take risks, and he's going to do it because this team has so little going for it that just trying to mix it up with anything is a good idea.
Yeah,
I'd be surprised if he made like a Davidson for Hamonic or Shattenkirk kind of trade.
The way I can see it happening. The way I see it is it's 2 steps forward, 1 step back. Because again, you're basically replacing Davidson with a higher level, but then the rest of your core is decreasing because you no longer have Davidson in there. If you know what I mean, like adding a player, so you have 4 good defensemen versus losing one of those and replacing one, while those three get better, you're also decreasing the bottom three because you no longer have that piece you know can fit in Davidson.
Another thing worth considering when you're talking about Shattenkirk has one more year for 4.25, and Davidson is on one of the most valued contracts probably in the entire league for young defensemen.
Probably.
With 1.842.
That's something to keep in mind for sure.
He's making peanuts for 2 more years.
Hamonic is on a ridiculously peachy contract too, though. So I think you push for Hamonic because on that reasoning, he's also, I think, better at shot suppression than Shattenkirk is. Shattenkirk produces more points, but Hamonic's better at shot suppression.
Hamonic is signed long term. Davidson would not be an RFA by the time his contract's up, I think, based on age.
He would have 1 year left.
He's young, and his contract is just beautiful for 2 more years.
Davidson would have 1 year left on his RFA.
No.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I think that there's pros and cons to everything, but I would not hesitate to put Davidson on the block for the right trade. And I understand that
I think we're losing.
He's on a great contract, but he's on a great contract.
I do think you have to seriously consider what you're getting in return before you trade Davidson at this point.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's just like Everly. You need to trade one of the $6 million guys, but you don't go, hey, that looks good, and here's garbage for Everly. No.
Tenorti, fucking, who was it, like Edler in a third or something? Yeah, that sounds like a good idea.
Tenorti, Edler in a third.
Yeah.
Ryder, Halak, and a second. That was the old joke. Back when Halak was with Montreal.
Yep. Anyway, speaking of defensemen, next topic is Klefbom. Everyone's been quiet on the Klefbom front. Is he ready to come back now? Would you let him, or do you shut him down?
They were saying that he was going to be back within a week of Nuge, and it's been a week and a half since Nuge was back, give or take. So I think Klefbom must be close to returning, but we haven't heard anything. So he's skating full gear. He's practicing with...
Wishful thinking.
You guys there? Oh, hey. Hey there.
Oh, there we go.
Oh, yeah, okay, there you are. Adam?
Yep.
Welcome back, Adam.
Oh, the stream's back too.
Stream?
Luckily the stream, what happens is it cuts out temporarily and then it cuts back in.
Alright.
So we're good.
Anyway,
as
Klefbom.
I was saying, Klefbom is skating with the team, but do you bring him back for, like, let's say he misses 2 more games, do you bring him back for 6 games? Is it worth it at that point?
I'm not an NHL physio, but if they say he's ready, like, what are 6 games going to do for him? We're not giving him some massive, exhausting stretch. He's been practicing. Team decides he's ready. Like, if he's not looking well after 2 games, then rest him for 4, and that's it. He needs to get a little bit of games back under his... A little bit of games. Good English. We're all falling apart after the stream went down. He needs to get a few games under his belt before the season ends, just on the basis of keeping fresh and, keep continuing to evaluate our players, especially after they return from injury. We need to see what he's doing now.
I can agree with that.
I'm assuming his first game or 2 back will be shaky, but it's those last 4 or 5 games that he'll play that actually really matter.
On a personal level for him, he probably wants to play because he's probably going to get asked to play for Sweden at the World Championships, so he doesn't want to be totally rusty.
I actually don't think he will. If you look at the decor they already have going, and Klingberg isn't on there, there's...
World Championships, not World Cup.
Oh, World Championship. Yes. Okay. Then yeah, I could see that. Yeah, because he did play last year. I think the other side of it is you shut him down, and it's both for his health. But if he's 100% ready to go, and he's ready to go, and the team knows he's ready to go, is that not kind of losing culture?
What do you weeks? I'm pretty sure he can handle himself. Klefbom knows better than anyone else whether or not he's ready to play, and if he says he's ready, then. He'll play through a fucking concussion because NHL players do that all the time.
Exactly.
And if the physios say whatever or they don't notice, then they can't stop him.
So I'm gonna skip the draft lottery stuff because we're running low on time, and we'll do that next week, or the next podcast. But
I'm hyped for Matthews there. That's your summary.
Next one would be because at that point our season will be almost over. We'll have a better idea of where we're gonna be sitting.
Yeah.
If you have to pick from Chiarelli's mid-season acquisitions, who do you keep thus far? So it's Party, Maroon, Cassian,
Cracknell.
Do you keep any of them?
Maroon and Cassian.
But
I
just
don't see how you can possibly get rid of Maroon and Cassian. Shit that's been said by everybody for fucking months since we got him. He brings a game that no one else plays. He's got a little bit of synergy with Taylor Hall, and he's a fucking goofball, and we love him.
yeah, same here. Maroon and Cassian. Party, probably not. But Cassian plays a very unique style. He's skilled enough to slot in the top six if need be. That's a stretch, but he can do it. He's tough as nails. He takes a lot of stupid penalties. That's got to be reduced. But yeah, I keep him. And then Maroon, he's a big body. He's got 6 points in 9 games with us. Like, that's pretty impressive. So
Yep. Maroon's been better than I expected. I think Cassian is somebody you have to keep. His consistency is again an issue, is the same as it was in Vancouver, but he's still doing what we've asked him to do, which is, enough right now. Cracknell has been invisible. I don't say that in a bad way, but I haven't noticed his presence when he's on the ice. But he doesn't make mistakes, but he doesn't really produce a lot of chances either. It's one of those things where it's like,
no, he hasn't really done too much.
Yeah,
it feels like pretty much exactly what we expected out of him, though.
Yeah, I think.
Yeah, I mean, he was a waiver
really
pickup.
Ever contribute much? He's just a
Yeah, I think with Party.
Waiver pickup.
Party, I think you maybe give him a 1-year deal. I think he's been good, but at the same time, maybe you give him a tryout contract. Can we do that? Can you give him a PTO? I don't know, because it's one of those things where it's like you're gonna have Greiba, Reinhardt, Osterley,
right,
all pushing for like 1 or 2 spots, and of course you have whoever's coming in. Maybe Davidson, whoever's still here is gonna be pushing for spots. Then you have Jones and Baird coming in, although they'll probably both be playing.
They won't
AHL.
make it.
Pagan might be coming over from the KHL, although he has another year left on his deal, so we'll see about that one. I don't know if you need to keep him, but it's not a bad problem to have. That Party's giving us something to think about. So I think
no, it's not a bad problem. Is he RFA after this or UFA or what's?
He's UFA.
Is it? Yeah, I mean, I could PTO. Why not? I don't see any issues with that.
Do you sign at 1.2 and then keep him in the AHL if need be?
That's the safe play. If I were him, I probably wouldn't be cool with that.
I don't know if he can get a chance. The other side of it is, I think he does want to, he has a hand injury, but they were saying, it was an article from Oilers Nation saying he wants to come back, and he does want to come back and show us what he can do, because he wants a contract next year.
Right. So I don't know how many options he's really going to have. I mean, he's not an integral part of any team.
No, and that's a big point, right?
So, yeah, if we signed him to like a $1.2 million deal, is he going to get that anywhere else? Probably not. So.
I just want to read pulling up the Reddit thread real quick. Nolan, you go first,
sure.
and I'll read that after.
Yeah, I was going to say, I pretty much already said what I feel about Cracknell. Invisible, that's what we expected, but, he's not been, destroying everything, like Schultz or whatever. No one hates him because no one's noticing him doing anything, which is, I guess, nice. And Party has been exposed as basically being a number 7 or number 8 defenseman several times with the Oilers. He's playing pretty well because we have a very good system. I feel like anyone could do well with that, and also teams probably play down to our level because they know, it's just the fucking Oilers. And, sometimes we do play legitimately well, and the guys that are playing on our third line, because we usually have a pretty competent top 4 now, the guys that Party would be playing against are actually close to his level of competition.
Mm-hmm.
Also, he's getting sheltered minutes, which is something I don't think, like Justin Schultz, who we pretty much got rid of him for, ever got.
Now, the thing you run into is that if you have, we keep Davidson, we trade Eberle for Hamonic. We end up, and whatever picks or whatever, so we end up with Sekera and Hamonic as a top pairing.
Okay.
And you have Klefbom and Davidson.
Okay.
Top 4, and then you run into Greiba.
Yep.
Party.
Okay.
Osterley,
6, 7,
Musil,
8,
and Nurse pushing, and Reinhardt pushing. So
that's like 10
players.
guys.
Yeah, 6 players pushing for the bottom 3 spots. So you kind of have some decisions to make. Do you stick Nurse and Reinhardt in the AHL? Do you let Reinhardt take the bottom pairing with Greiba and sign Greiba to a 1-year deal? Because you've had a longer experience with Greiba, you know what he brings. He's inconsistent, but he can be good. Party was good for 10 games, but we haven't seen him at all. So I think you have to prioritize Greiba, the guy you've seen in Greiba, and the players you have seen in Australia and Davidson and all the other guys over Party. And it's unfortunate because I think Party's been good enough that if he was still healthy, we could have offered him something next year to prove. But if you sign him to a PTO and he doesn't sign anywhere else, I don't think it's a bad option at all.
Yeah. Okay, what's your overall question? Break that down for me in one sentence.
So my question is, if you have Party and you have all these guys pushing for the bottom 3 spots, is Party more valuable to us than any of the other guys that we currently have in our system?
Not more valuable, but I think getting experience for players like Nurse and Reinhardt should take precedence over trying to make minutes for Party. I mean, if he can't do it, then he can't do it. Like, get out of the way.
Yeah, I don't think it's unreasonable that maybe you give him a PTO or maybe you sign him to a $1 million contract for 1 year. But I feel.
Sorry, finish your sentence and then I'll.
I was gonna say I don't think you give him a spot over Nurse or Reinhardt.
No.
I think it shows a severe lack of faith to give a guy that you were giving top 6 minutes to a PTO and say, well, we're not sure if we want to keep you yet. I don't think Party would even accept that. He's like, if you're not going to give me some kind of contract and honesty and security, I'm just going to go check out another team and see if someone will sign me.
He knows he's here because of injuries. Because Grab was done for the season, because Davidson was healthy when he gets came here, but Grab was done for the season. Klefbom's pretty much been gone for 2.5 months. Nurse and Reinhardt were inexperienced. He knows why he was here, but but
a PTO is basically saying like all 30 teams decided you're not worth signing immediately, but we'll give you a chance if you want to, waste your time here.
A PTO is not something that we'd be able to extend in the summer anyway. We would be waiting until late September to throw that out there. That's halfway through training camp for.
I don't think Party makes it past July without getting signed by someone as depth.
Do you think that if we don't sign him, are we losing out if we don't sign Party?
I mean, I think we can afford to let it go until free agency to talk with him, but I don't feel like it's a massive asset to lose. Number 7, 8 defensemen go around all the time. Party just happens to be fitting like vaguely well with our system. I mean, maybe because of that, Chiarelli decides he's worth signing, and T-Mac says, I like this guy, I like what he brings, he's good in the locker room, intangibles, etc., etc. Maybe he's worth signing, but I don't think giving him more than $1 million is the right move, and I don't think signing him for more than a year is the right move, and maybe he doesn't accept that.
With this season, I thought that Nurse should have been in the AHL for the entire year. Now, next year, it becomes more complicated because he's a year older, a year wiser, a year better. Does he accept going down to the AHL next season, or are we going to get a Drouin situation here?
I think Nurse is too patient. Nurse is not Drouin, but I think he almost might have to because he knows he hasn't played very well. He knows he's been better, but he hasn't been very good.
Yeah, he hasn't been that good. I'm going to agree with that, but at the same time, he spent a year in the NHL, period, like he did. I don't see how you can easily accept going down to the AHL after spending a year there. And I know he's not Drouin, but I mean, God, I would be really pissed off to go from NHL salary and planes to the road.
Same attitude Draisaitl took. You go down, you kick ass, and you come back up. Well, Draisaitl didn't even kick ass. Draisaitl got lucky and then destroyed when he came to the NHL.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I'm just going to read what Birding said real quick. He said, Nurse suspension. I think the response Nurse had was justified based on the view after the Hendricks hit. However, when he kept going when Polak was not engaging is where he crossed the line, which I do agree with. He should...
Totally.
Standing up for him was good. Beating his face into a pulp when he was on the ground...
unnecessary. Yeah.
Also, I do believe the damage done to Polak was a main factor in suspension over a Max Domi scenario, which is also valid. The NHL does consider that. That's just, it's true. Also, I do think the NHL is making an example out of Nurse for considering the 2 incidents happened in such close timeline. If Domi happened after Nurse, I would believe that they would have both gone for 3 games. I don't know. I don't like putting on my tinfoil hat, but I do think Domi got a reduced suspension, partially because he is the son of a former NHL player who's a prominent NHL player. But that said, it's also a ridiculous statement. Domi didn't hurt. I can't remember who he assaulted, but he didn't hurt it. He didn't hurt him. Nurse flat out broke Polak's nose. You know, there was much more.
I mean, you
aggression.
pretty much just summarized my comment reply to what I said to Birding.
Yeah.
The race car thing was a cheeky observation, but I think in the back of my mind, Domi is going to continue to get just the very slightest preferential treatment from the league, as long as he doesn't make an enemy of the refs and become like public enemy number one. This guy's an asshole, you know, punish him harder because he's been a dick to you on the ice, because Ty Domi used to play for the NHL and has ties to the league. Not like anything more than any other player, just the slightest little tiny sliver of preference because his dad used to be tough shit. I think Domi would have gotten 2 games if it happened after Nurse, because as it stands, Nurse broke a guy's nose and Domi just horse-collared and haymaker the guy.
Just. So he also commented, would you rather the Canucks or the Flames win the lottery?
Well, he said, what if they win?
The Canucks, yeah, but I mean...
Would I rather? Probably Calgary, to be honest with you. I hate Vancouver more than Calgary, so...
I'm getting that point too.
I don't really hate the Flames anymore, and that bothers me because I used to hate them just on.
I hate Flames fans. The team.
I hate Vancouver fans.
You know what? I don't hate
me
Flames
too.
fans either, because the Canucks fans are fucking unbearable.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's a given too. But like, I don't hate the Flames as much as I used to, but I still hate them in the sense that I know Flames fans and they piss me off.
I still hate the Stampeders. I hate them on principle. I hate every other Calgary. Well. I used to hate a lot of other Calgary teams, but I like their soccer team. Like, I support them just out of, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for?
Camaraderie.
Camaraderie, yeah. They're FC Edmonton and the Calgary Foothills are both teams in, you know, leagues that don't get enough representation. They're both trying to make it somewhere.
That's on par with the
It's like a cheeky rivalry because we know that Calgary stands no chance of ever beating our soccer team. So it's like, you know, they're cute. I like them.
It's like West Ham
I don't really
versus
hate the Flames because their players are pretty hard to hate now, outside of hearing about Gaudreau all the time, but I still respect Gaudreau.
Yeah,
but
I like a
hate
lot
the
of
Stampeders because we have a legitimate rivalry. We have for years, and Bo Levi Mitchell sometimes says dumb shit, even though he's a smart guy. Also, some of the way that the Stampeders display themselves during the game is fucking obnoxious as all hell. But no, I think Canucks fans are much more annoying than Flames fans, and I think the Canucks team is much more aggravating than the Flames team.
I'd almost rather the Canucks won, simply because Benning is running the team into the ground, and they
happen.
They do something absolutely stupid with like
they deserve it.
They'd be good for like 2 or 3 seasons while the Sedins are still playing, and then the moment the Sedins retire, they are fucked. And I'd love to see.
They'll be fucked anyway. Don't let them have Matthews.
When you have players like Bieksa and Alexander Burrows on your team for years and years and years, like you're just an unlikable team. That's what it is. Like I like the Sedins.
When you have Zach Cassian on your team as well.
Yeah, I like the Sedins. I like Luongo when he was there. God, who like. I just don't even care about them anymore. Like, it's just a white hot hatred. I don't even want to think about them. I hate the fans more than the team.
Yeah,
Eddie Lack is the only.
I hate
he was the only shining
like,
star. Now he's gone, and now it's just Markstrom.
Yeah, this is the same problem I have with Montreal. I hate the fans more than I hate the team. I like lots of players on Montreal, but the fans are unbearable.
Now, he also commented, would it be worse if Toronto won?
No, absolutely not. I don't.
They literally are not allowed to win the lottery. It's fine.
I do.
I am a Leafs fan.
Yeah, exactly. You're a piece of shit. Have you Leafs fans are the Vancouver fans of the East. Let me put it that way.
Yeah,
except there's more of them.
I agree. Lots of the fans have this weird, not obsession, but what's the word I'm looking for? Like they think that the league owes them something or something along those lines. Inferiority complex? Not even that, but like they really buy into the whole idea and mantra of center of the universe.
Victimization complex, sorry.
Yeah, center of the universe and all that stuff too. Like there's definitely a lot of that, but I honestly think that the league is better when Toronto's doing well.
I will say I think that as much as I dislike a lot of the really obnoxious Leafs fans, I do know a lot of good Leafs fans. Isaac is obviously a great guy. He's a Leafs fan.
Leafs fans aren't bad people. My best friend is a Leafs fan.
The vast majority of, I mean, James is a friend of mine, and he's a Leafs fan, so they can't all be that bad, right? I mean,
yeah, we're kind of shitty sometimes. But...
I have a couple friends most of my friends here who watch hockey are Leafs fans, except for Nick, who's a Bolts fan, because that makes sense. So they're not all bad. And it would be kind of interesting to see the McDavid versus Matthews matchup, but if they already have McDavid goes home to Toronto thing. But at the same time, I think I'd rather Toronto get it than Calgary or Calgary or Vancouver.
Me too.
But
it's really tough for me because there are 3 teams that I absolutely do not want to win the lottery, and all 3 of them are Canadian teams, and all the Canadian teams suck dick this year. I would love it if the Senators won. I would be okay if the Jets won. I would fucking laugh my head off and then cry if we won it again.
Oh.
Okay, I would be okay with Edmonton, Toronto, Winnipeg, and Ottawa winning. Anyone else, fuck that.
So basically...
Same here, except replace Toronto with Calgary, and Calgary's is just like, I'll live with it.
I'd really rather...
I'd love to see Ottawa win it. I think
yeah,
it is.
I could get down with Ottawa.
Yeah.
Ticket prices go up a little bit, but they still... Oh, that'd be great. But they don't... They're so close to... They're at that middle ground where they're going to be stuck in the middle where they're going to pick like 9th or 10th. And
assuming that the lottery balls fall where they should.
They have the...
Now, teams that need this the most... Carolina would fucking... become a new bastion of hockey if they got Matthews.
Fuck Carolina.
Fuck Carolina because fuck Carolina and fuck Cam Ward. But as for franchises that may actually like legitimately still relocate that no one's really talking about, Carolina's probably public enemy number 1 there. The league would sure fucking love if Carolina won one of the lotteries.
Mm-hmm.
But fuck Carolina and fuck Cam
Fuck
Ward.
Carolina.
We'll talk next week about the draft lottery too. So we'll talk about, or not draft lottery, expansion draft. Sorry.
Yeah.
So next time it's expansion draft and lottery rankings.
Okay, so let's say 2 weeks from now, that puts us at the 3rd of April. So that's pretty much the end of the year. I think we might have 1 or 2 games left.
2 games after that, yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much the end of the year.
I don't think Party and Kraken are going to stick around. They just won't have a role in the team moving forward, foregoing some trades that aren't even on the radar at the moment. Yeah, I don't think that's wrong either. I think Party could be a possibility. I don't think he will be.
Yeah.
But anyway, we're getting to an hour and a half now. Let's save it all and wrap it up and talk about it in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us, guys.
That's going to be pretty much it. Yeah, thanks for commenting in the Reddit thread. Follow us on Twitter, our Oilers podcast. And once again, my name is James, Paul McCartney, Adam, Sweet 44722, Nolan, Professor Scribbles. And once again, thanks for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.